Trade wins. Can VGK improve by making trades before the March the 8th deadline? We dig in on this topic next, right here on Locked On Golden Knights.
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hi, everyone. Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Find us wherever you get your podcast, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Locked On Golden Knights. We are brought to you today by FanDuel, FanDuel Sportsbook. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. And new customers, you get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. So, Chris, on the heels of all the controversy that we stirred up with Jonathan Marchessault yesterday, we're going to talk about VGK potential trades. As there was a trade last night in the National Hockey League, which we'll talk about later on, but it left us wondering if we will see some more action coming up here, perhaps in the trade department during the All-Star break first of all. And by the way, VGK went on its All-Star break a month ago, and teams were still playing last night because it's rigged, because it's absolutely stinking rigged. Does VGK, I love this term, does VGK stand pat? Or do they start to make some moves as they now try to look towards the future? I feel they should make some moves, even if they go for a rental or two. And I am still, from the start, you know this, I'm still not 100% sold on goaltending for the Vegas Golden Knights because of health reasons, the lack of experience. I know it worked out last year, but I'm still feeling that the goaltending area could use some more experience. Let's start there.
So, yeah, fine. Starting with the goaltenders, as far as more experience, I mean, listen, if Hill and Thompson are healthy, there's nothing absolutely to be concerned about in the world. Aiden Hill showed us what he can do in the playoffs, and Logan has showed us what he can do in a complementary role. And when I say complementary role, I don't mean like a 80-20. I mean like a 60-40 type situation. And Logan also did pretty good in that run while Aiden Hill was gone, when unfortunately Golden Knight fans are going to hold like 5 games against him of the 19 he started. So that's just kind of how things go right now. Could the Golden Knights use an experienced goaltender? I mean, I was pounding the drum about that in the offseason leading up. Is Halak still out there, Tony? I don't know. That was someone that I threw around. Are the Golden Knights in a spot to acquire a goaltender? Because as of this moment, they don't need one per se. That's really tough, finding a goalie who's going to be ready to go. I mean, you're not going to send someone down to the AHL that you trade for and hope they clear waivers and bring them up. Like, that just seems extremely complicated. You mentioned standing pat. So this is kind of interesting. You have Shea Theodore. William Karlsson's coming back, but William Karlsson from injury. You have Jack Eichel. There's other players, but those are the main 3 we're going to focus on right now. Those basically become deadline acquisitions should they come back, obviously, sometime between now and the end of the season. That said, McCrimmon, I don't think, has ever stood pat outside of the COVID-shortened season, and I don't even know if he stood pat in that season. You look back season 1, big splash for Tomas Hertl. Mark Stone was a deadline acquisition. You look at everything that happened last season leading up. You look at season 5 when there was all the injuries. McCrimmon tried, but the whole issue with Dodonov and everything. Mm-hmm. So McCrimmon's not standing pat. That's the one thing I can promise Golden Knight fans. Something is going to happen. How? I don't know. We'll talk more about that in this segment.
Okay. Hey, Martin Jones is still out there. Your fave. Ilya Samsonov, I think.
I thought Martin Jones was crushing it somewhere.
Martin Jones, wasn't he, early on?
I
Oh,
thought he was
okay.
doing really well lately, dude. I'm serious.
Yeah, that's okay. But then you also have, though, on a legitimate side, but I just know your affinity for Martin Jones.
Hey,
And then,
let's
of
go. Bring
course,
him. Bring him in.
you
Why
have
not?
Ilya Samsonov still out there if you're going for a goaltender. Pretty interesting. I saw your late night Z last night. I'm making the X sound like a Z, where you said one trade could trigger others. And
Yeah.
one show actually triggered another too with
There we
Marchessault
go. There we
yesterday.
go.
But in any event, yeah, and I think the domino effect could actually occur.
Not necessarily apples to apples, but when the Yankees make a trade or a splash in the offseason, so do the Red Sox, as long as both are contending teams. They always try and one up each other. And I don't think the Golden Knights are concerned about one upping the Vancouver Canucks. The Golden Knights, when healthy, are a pretty good team, folks. But I think this does initiate some type of response. I mean, Ken Holland already did a small response up in Edmonton with the Corey Perry signing. We'll see how that plays out long term for that team, but Edmonton's still going to do something, I think. And the Golden Knights, like I said, McCrimmon doesn't stand pat too often, and I don't see him standing pat this year. But it will be interesting to see how this possibly changed things. Well, what you're seeing happening now are media members tweeting out like what representatives are at each game. So like when you walk into T-Mobile Arena on the press level, you look up on the TV to see where your seating assignments are. And then on that same TV, it shows all the scouts or representatives from other teams that are in attendance. Sometimes it just says a team, sometimes it says who the representative is. But point being is, as the trade winds heat up, as Tony said to start the show, you'll see more and more. I think, was there something like 40 people in attendance of like the Red Wings Senators game last night, including Golden Knights had people there. So this is when it gets interesting. I have no idea who it could be. Like, I was trying to wrap my head around and figure if there was a target that the Golden Knights had. Maybe we'll dive into that for another show as the trade deadline gets a little bit closer. But now you start looking at the sellers, right? Calgary is still, Gary are still sellers. I knew that my hockey shows when I'm working right now. It's so bad. The Sharks are selling, obviously. I don't think either one of those teams really care about trading within the division. Calgary obviously doesn't care. Looking at other teams around, I mean, Arizona's in a fun spot. I don't think they're going to sell anybody, though. Nashville's like right on the bubble. Like, I'm trying to think of Montreal could be a team if they have a couple higher players. Even Buffalo, if they want to try and recoil things. They're in such a downfall right now with their current roster. They're screwing things up, which I kind of expected. Sorry, Buffalo. There's really not like a ton of teams that cross my mind that are going to be hardcore sellers at the deadline, though. Like, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but McCrimmon's going to whip something up, guys. I don't know how, but McCrimmon's going to whip something up.
Does VGK need another center if Jack Eichel can't return this season? I think that's a big question.
That's a great question. I'm not against it. I mean, listen, is Nick Waugh a second line center? I know everyone listening to the show is nodding their head yes, saying, yes, look what he's done over the last 10 games. And my response is, yes, look what he's done over the last 10 games.
Small
it's a little
sample
different
size.
In the playoffs. Yeah, it's a small sample size.
Too. Yeah.
And that's not a knock on Nick Waugh by any means. If that's what has to happen for the time being going into the playoffs, okay, fine, so be it. If Jack Eichel, okay, put it to you like this. If I even hate to think about this, but you never know with this team. If Jack Eichel happens to come back game one of the playoffs, but he's going to miss everything leading up to the playoffs with his current injury situation, Nick Waugh the centers are fine as is, right? Maybe you acquire this year's Teddy Bluger just in case something happens, right? Maybe you do something little like that. But if Eichel's going to come back, then you're fine as is. If Jack Eichel, for some reason, his entire season and postseason is done, which could be, you never know at this point. If that happens, then yeah, the Golden Knights need another high-level center, I think. And maybe it doesn't push Nick Waugh from where he is in the lineup, but you still need, like, I don't know, Chandler Stevenson or Nick Waugh as the 1-2 punch and William Karlsson in his role. I don't think that wins you a Stanley Cup. That's why they traded for Jack Eichel, Tony. Kelly McCrimmon identified two things when he first started officially as a general manager after he was the assistant. You need a number one defenseman, Alex Pietrangelo. You need a number one center, Jack Eichel. You need goaltending. And then you build it around from there. And McCrimmon obviously figured that out. Real fast, just trying to sort this out on Cap Friendly to see what the Golden Knights even could do right now. So as of this second, the Golden Knights have 4.4 million of cap space to utilize. Shea Theodore, his cap hit is 5.2. He's on long-term IR. So if Shea Theodore were to come back today, the Golden Knights have to send someone down. You're probably looking at Keaton Korczak because he's the only player that's on a two-way deal that I don't think has to clear waivers or anything like that. Yeah, he's waivers exempt. So that's enough money to get Korczak into the lineup, I believe. Now,
to get Theodore into the lineup.
To get Theodore back in, which is fine, defenseman for defenseman. At that point, then the salary cap becomes zero. But Eichel is on IR, not LTIR. If Eichel were to go to LTIR, that's $10 million, assuming he doesn't come back before the end of the regular season.
Yeah, it's ridiculous the way that they play with the salary cap and such. So, one final question. VGK, buyers, sellers, or stand putters? That's not even
they're I would say, as far as sellers, I'll handicap each of them. They're 5%. They're going to be sellers. I say 5% because something bad could happen. Mark Stone could get hurt. Aiden Hill could get hurt. Logan could get hurt. Something could happen that could put the season in a really tough spot. So that's why I say 5% sellers. Mm-hmm. As far as standing pats, I'll go 65%. Because just McCrimmon may not be able to find a way. I think he will find a way, but McCrimmon may not be able to find a way without shipping out an important asset, which you're not going to ship an important asset from a Stanley Cup potential winning team and get someone that you're only going to potentially run in place with. It's not as easy as when you make a trade, someone just comes right into the lineup and just gets it going. You never know. It could. I mean, Barbashev did pretty well last year. 30% McCrimmon's going to do something. And then of the trade that he's going to make, I'll probably say 70%. It's more like a depth piece, not necessarily a Teddy Bluger to that level, but someone who can really fill in, let's say, that gap on the left wing right now where you see Brett Howden or Paul Cotter playing up in the lineup. I could see that happening. Or just another, I mean, they could add a defenseman, Tony, just for that depth. They could add a defenseman just for that depth. So I'll say 60%, it's more of like a depth type play, maybe goaltending. And I'll give it like a 35-40% chance that McCrimmon just surprises the heck out of all of us and a crazy trade gets made where we all put our feet up and watch the hate come in because Eichel goes to LTIR for the rest of the season.
And we get more ratings, of course, as a result. Coming up next.
Click, subscribe, like.
Up next, there was a trade in the Pacific Division last night. We'll tell you all about it when we return right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Hey, we are getting closer to the Las Vegas Super Bowl number 58. And there's no better place to check things out and the odds board than FanDuel, which is America's #1 sports book. If you're like us, Super Bowl Sunday is a big, big deal. It's about just hanging around, being with friends, eating a lot of snacks, of course, like I usually do, and then placing some super bets. FanDuel has so many different ways for you to try to win this season, end the season on a winning note. Not only can you bet on who will win the Super Bowl, but FanDuel also has bets on which player will score a touchdown. I thought the first touchdown was Christian McCaffrey, last I saw. How many points will be scored in the game, such as the total, and so much more, different sort of prop bets. New customers, if you join today, you will get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Again, just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. Welcome back, Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. We appreciate you making us your first listen. Thanks so much for doing so. And don't forget, on Saturdays, it's the Chris and Chris Show, the YouTube exclusive. So that's why you need to subscribe. And on Fridays, we have WTF, What the Friday. So for me, Chris, yesterday was WTW, What the Wednesday. Crazy things. I went to a very small high school, right, back in New Jersey. private parochial school. It really did well for me, as you can tell. And so yesterday, I get, one of those LinkedIn messages from a high school friend that I have not talked to since high school.
You mean the Super Bowl, bro?
No. He's coming out
okay.
for you too, but it was just kind of strange. Like the last time I had someone come out here, quick story, there was a knock on my door, right? And this is back when I was back in the 80s, back when I was hanging out here in the 1980s. Yeah, that was still a deal. Knock on the door, and it's one of my high school friends knocks on my door. Like, I was freaked out. Like, how did you find me? He was in the CIA. He was in the CIA. He found me, of course, because he could find anyone. And then he says, drop me off at Caesars. We're at that corner right near the Barbary Coast. And I'm driving him back to Caesars. And he just jumps out of the car and runs away. And I never see or hear from him again. Pablo. That was Pablo. So I don't know what
was not Pablo.
Well, in high school, his name was Pablo. Who knows? But he was in the CIA. He found me. He just knocked on my door.
This is the link person who sent you a message yesterday?
No, I haven't seen that cat for a long time ago. But the last high school
So you got two
buddy,
stories for us. Got it. Okay.
The last high school buddy that was here in Vegas was in the CIA, knocked on my door, hung out, had a few beers, go to drop him back off at Caesar's Palace, right there at the Barbary Coast, of course, right there on that corner, whatever that's called now. He jumps out of the car and just runs away, and I never see or hear from him again. Okay, back to hockey. That's my life, bro. Are you surprised not only at my story, but that divisional rivals Vancouver and Calgary made a trade yesterday? Actually, it's the second time it was so random. Sorry about that. Second time that they've had a trade. First of the season. Last year they traded the Flames Nikita Zadorov to the Canucks for draft picks. And now they trade again, which is kind of strange within the own division. And does the trade yesterday, in which the Flames received two-way center Elias Lindholm for forward Andrei Kuznetsov and a number of draft choices, whatever, does that surprise you? All these other cats. Did I say the wrong name? Kuzmenko.
Oh, yeah.
Kuzmenko. I called
there it is.
Yeah. Thank you. I was so focused on the Pablo story in the CIA that I lost it.
So, I mean, first of all, the Flames are a dumpster fire right now. And you go back to trading away Matthew Tkachuk and Gaudreau and everything that happened a couple off seasons ago. And the fact that they got Huberdeau, who is massively performing under expectations, Nazem Kadri, who he's doing fine, but he's not the person who's going to, take your team to a Stanley Cup. And just everyone seems to want out of Cal. 1, 2, 3, Gary. So Lindholm is the first domino to fall. It's a big trade. I mean, you got a first in there. I don't know anything about Jermo and Brustowicz. I hope I said that name correctly.
No. Hunter
Kuzmenko, though.
Hunter Brustevich.
All right, there you go. Tony's correcting me now on names.
I know. I had to get you back.
Kuzmenko, I mean, this is a big deal here. I mean, Kuzmenko's stats here, guys. Like, listen to this here for a second. Kuzmenko in 22-23 had 74 points.
2 years
He had 74 points. This season, he's got 21 points, so he's maybe underperforming compared to where he was.
Yeah, that's what they said.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting, like, I get the trade, but they're trading to replace like this rookie who did amazing last season and who's slowing down a little bit. Like, I feel like they're replacing the wrong piece of their lineup here. Like, I don't know why you're trying to replace that type of scoring output. And the team is doing better with Kuzmenko not scoring as often. So we'll see how this ends up playing out. Looking at Lindholm's stats, he's had his best seasons, 82 and 78 points, which are not that much better than what friggin' Kuzmenko just did. This season, 9 goals, 23 assists. Last season, 64 points. And again, this is on on a Flames team that really hasn't been very good. He was a plus 61. Oh my God. In 21-22, Lindholm was a plus 61.
My goodness.
That is an amazing stat line right there. I'm making sure I'm looking at that right. So, I mean, it's a big trade. Did Calgary, I mean, who won the trade, I think, is the bigger question. I think the Flames come out on the right side of this deal, right? You get rid of a guy who doesn't want to be in Calgary. I don't blame him. And you get Kuzmenko, who flashed what he could do. Now, he's a KHL, older rookie-ish, so it's a little bit of a different scenario. Kuzmenko might be at his plateau right now versus a traditional rookie who still has an upward trajectory. But they get the high draft pick. They get a couple prospects. So I like the Flames side of this trade better, but Vancouver made the first big splash. They made the first blockbuster, and now they're putting pressure on the other teams. And I like the timing of the trade because now Lindholm has plenty of time to get acclimated. And also Vancouver can respond to what the Golden Knights, to what the Oilers, and possibly anyone else in the West is going to do in response to this. So it's kind of like poker. It's all about positioning, right? The Canucks get to act last in this situation and watch how the response comes in. So I like it from that angle, the way the Canucks did it.
A year ago, Vancouver was a team that traded away Bo Horvat to the Islanders, so they stay very active in that area. A lot of folks believed that Lindholm would have been the hot name in March because he's a center, because he's plus 61. Damn it. Wow, that's insane. Kuzmenko, as you mentioned, good season a couple of seasons ago, or last year, I should say. Last year, I keep saying 2 years ago, but not a great season so far. And then Hunter Brusnevich, a scoring defenseman. So you look at the future of this deal, too. Scoring defenseman who is third in scoring for a defenseman in the OHL this season. So they might have found something good there. So we'll see how it shakes out. But Lindholm is a rental, and expiring contract coming up, was not motivated while he was there in Cal, 102,554, Gary. And so it could be something good. I think it could work out for both teams, and then maybe they lock down Lindholm long term. He's going to be a hot commodity at the end of the season now.
So that's the thing to keep an eye on right now. You're talking about, like you said, someone who's unmotivated. Dude gets paid pretty well. He's got a nice contract. Where I'm going with this is you look at a Pierre-Luc Dubois, right? Pierre-Luc Dubois, he's done okay throughout his career, but he is dragging down. He's the anchor all of a sudden for the Los Angeles Kings. So these quote-unquote blockbuster trades where you're getting this big name don't necessarily work out. And, do you want, I'm not saying Lindholm is a locker room cancer, or maybe I am, I don't know. But I don't know how highly I think of a player who is very open about wanting to be out of their situation. I get what's happening with the Flames. It's not like he's in year 3 of a 7-year contract, like you said, right? At that point, the writing's on the wall. Get me out of this godforsaken organization. It's not the case. He's got 3 more months. They're not going to be in the playoffs. He's got 3 more months, and then he can just watch the offers come rolling in. No, he wants to get out now, and I get that. I do. But just it's not the best. I don't know. Maybe he's motivated. Maybe he's the missing piece. Maybe he's why the Vancouver Canucks could possibly win the Stanley Cup and win the Pacific Division. Or it throws the balance off completely and becomes a distraction. And, he's on the Pierre-Luc Dubois path to success.
Coming up next, the best and worst VGK trades. What were they? We get to that when we return right here on Locked On Golden Knights. We are back on Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We appreciate you doing so. And make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. Years later, right after high school, have you had anyone just show up at your door or folks reach out to you? This has been an eternity that I've even spoken to anyone from high school. When I left, I was done with high school, closed that chapter, and left and came west, young man. Well, young man then. But yeah, you've not had that ever happen where
No,
people
no.
reach out to you and go, "Hey, I'll be in Vegas. Let's
I have
catch
people
up."
reach out. I have people randomly show up my door.
That was the most bizarre thing ever. I can't think of Pablo's last name, but he showed me his CIA badge and I was like freaked out. I thought I was going to get kidnapped or something. Best and worst VGK trades. That's what the topic is in this segment. Uh, the best, I feel, by far, was when VGK unloaded Michael Hutchinson to CBJ. Had to throw that in there for you.
I thought for sure you were starting with Chandler Stevenson.
The Jack Eichel trade, I think VGK did very well in that trade, even though he's a $10 million man. The craziest thing ever when you go back and look at this trade was the fact that one Peyton Krebs held up the deal. Right? VGK did not want to part with Peyton Krebs, who is just an add-on, but Alex Tuck has found a home back there in Buffalo. He was injured a lot this season in the early part. And I just think that Eichel is one of the top centers in the game. He's become an unbelievable two-way player as well.
Listen, Peyton Krebs, I mean, I'm not going to hold it as much against Peyton Krebs as I am the Buffalo Sabres organization. Sabres are 1 point away from making the playoffs last year, and now they're not even within striking distance of making the playoffs. So, you know, I think I wrote an article over the summer talking about if the trade doesn't happen, if the Sabres would have made the playoffs last season because they missed it by 1 point. And of course, all the Buffalo people, no, Jack Eichel bad, Jack Eichel bad, Jack Eichel bad. Well, now look at what's happening. And again, this isn't a knock on Alex Tuck by any means, but you really see the importance of Jack Eichel to that organization. Since he left, it hasn't gone so well. It hasn't gone so well when he was there, to be fair. And where I was going with that also is I think Peyton Krebs would have developed a little bit better within Vegas. They would have kept him in the AHL for like 4 more years, like your friend Brandon Brisson. So there you go. Starting on the negative side, Kelly McCrimmon and George McPhee early on had some whiffs, right? The Max Pacioretty deal. Nick Suzuki, I mean, he's obviously really flourished and done really well. So, like the Pacioretty deal, Suzuki and Tomas Tatar. Getting rid of Tatar was not bad, but that's the other really bad one was how Tatar was acquired. Listen to this haul right here. Golden Knights traded to get Tatar a first round, a second round, and a third round. And the first round became Joe Veleno, who's actually doing really, really well for the Red Wings. So, you know, one player is involved in, you know, 2 poor trades, I guess you can say like that. So, you know, what can you do?
Among my worst, the acquisition of Shea Weber to LTIR. That was pretty weird. Of course, the Evgeny Dodonov non-trade to Anaheim. That was bizarre too. And then the big trade, though, one of the all-time clunkers, Marc-Andre Fleury for one Michael Hakkarainen. Where is that guy at?
See, so the issue with there's a couple things with that trade. One, everyone in the AHL knew the Golden Knights had to get rid of Fleury. So they make a deal with Chicago, they get a throw-in. So that doesn't bother me at the time. What bothers me is the fact that Marc-Andre Fleury got flipped for either a third or a first-round pick by the Blackhawks to the Minnesota Wild. That's the side of the trade that I hate to see for the Golden Knights side. How about a good trade here? How about Golden Knights trading away one Oscar Lindberg, who I think is now in Sweden somewhere, Eric Brandstrom, who is underperforming, and a second-round pick turning to Igor Sokolov, who seems to be a career AHLer at this stage of his career, for Mark Stone. How about that one right there? That trade definitely, I think, maybe that was the moment the Golden Knights got their identity, I think, when Mark Stone arrived, if you really think about it.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And then any worst, you can't mention worst trades without any trade for future considerations. I don't know. Well, I never could understand why in the world they continued to get nothing out of some of these trades.
How about Nicholas Waugh for Eric Haula? That seemed to be a pretty fair trade at the time. Eric Haula is still doing, I mean, the two kind of have similar roles. I think the difference being Nicholas Waugh just has I think, a much better ceiling. Let's see here. Here's a good trade for the Golden Knights. Golden Knights trade away Nikita Gusev. So Nikita Gusev, I believe the Golden Knights signed from the KHL, if I recall, seemed to be, very highly touted, very highly touted. And the Golden Knights received a second and a third. The 2020 third round pick winds up being Lucas Cormier. So there you go, right there. Good trade for Vegas. And Gusev not around. And this is Tony's all-time favorite trade, I think. Golden Knights trade away a 5th round pick to the Capitals for Chandler Stevenson.
Oh yeah, no, that was one of their biggest hauls. I think one of the best trades that they've ever made for a 4th line player with the Caps, and that was turns out to be really good. But now we want to trade Stevenson, as we said yesterday.
I don't think they want to trade Stevenson.
What was it, like over 90 some odd % of the people that participated in yesterday's poll about Jonathan Marchessault said, secure the bag now, do it right now, pay him now, right?
I agree doing it now, because the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost potentially.
It's going to cost more potentially, and then once he gets out there on the market, I think someone could swipe him. I mean, there's enough of the loyalty thing, but he needs to make at least $1 more than Willie K. He does. So
yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that. So I'm actually it was a good trade for the future considerations deal with Pacioretty, because that at the time is what kept players like Kolesar, Riley Smith, and Nicholas Waugh on the Golden Knights. So I think that was actually a really good trade. Barbashev for Zach Dean. How about that one right there?
That was a good one. It was
Pacioretty, Michael Hutchinson. There you go.
Pacioretty and Dylan Coughlin for future considerations, right? And
Pacioretty's hurt again too. I don't know if it's something really bad again, but he's hurt again, unfortunately.
Well, his contract is coming up at the end of the season, so I think he could be done if it's anything that's going to
I hope not. He definitely. I mean, I know he didn't leave Vegas in the best of terms, but he's dude competes.
He didn't leave Vegas.
You got to give him credit for that.
He left the country club. He didn't leave.
And that's honestly, that's fair. He didn't. Some people just don't mesh, and so be it. Square peg, round hole.
Don't forget, especially our everydayers, to tune in each and every day and find us wherever you get your podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. And on Saturdays, it's the Chris times Chris show for future considerations. It is the YouTube exclusive.
And Chris was the future considerations.
He's unbelievable. And then, of course, WTF, which is tomorrow already. So line up all of your comments. I bet you we get some Marchessault heat here on the show. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Thanks so much to all of you. And we definitely do appreciate you, one and all. For my man, Chris Golick, I'm Tony Cardasco from Las Vegas. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Take care.